have a Week 6 preview coming your way on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day, and I hope everybody out there is getting set to have an awesome weekend. The Philadelphia Eagles will play host to the Cleveland Browns at Lincoln Financial Field on Sunday, and coming up, a full-blown preview, matchups to watch, how Philadelphia can win, betting implications, how the Eagles can expose Deshaun Watson, and get back over 500. Before we do all of that, be sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure you join us on Sunday for our Eagles-Browns watch party. The show will get underway an hour before the game begins, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific is when myself and producer Chip will be live here on Eagles Now. And if you haven't tapped into our watch parties, it's the best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. So join the family and subscribe to the largest independently run Eagles channel right here on YouTube. So the Birds coming off of the bye week to host the Cleveland Browns. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. Eastern at Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia on Sunday, and the line has gone up over the last couple of days, where Philadelphia is now 9.5-point favorites. The over-under a little bit low at 42.5. I expect Philadelphia to score a lot of points in this game, and they should be able to dominate, but this is a Cleveland Browns team that has had a lot of difficulties trying to score. And they are the only team in the National Football League to not have scored more than 18 points in a game this year. That's why that over-under is a little bit lower. There are no excuses for the Eagles going into Sunday. They are coming off the bye week healthy. They will get some star players back in the lineup. They are rested. They are rejuvenated. They're playing a Cleveland Browns team which is horrid on the offensive side of the football. They're banged up along the offensive line. They're banged up on the defensive side of the football. And the Browns, straight up, are one of the NFL's worst teams. And so far this year, they have been bad. Kicked off the 2024 campaign with a 33-17 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas thumped them in that football game. The Browns then evened up their record at 1-1, going down to Florida, and they beat the Jaguars 18-13, but Jacksonville didn't pick up their first win of the season until last week over the Indianapolis Colts. The Browns returned home. They lost to the New York Giants 21-15. They lost on the road against the Raiders, another bad football team with bad quarterback play, 20-16 the final there. And then Cleveland goes on the road to FedEx Field. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders have been white hot to start the year, one of the NFL's surprise teams, and they blew out the Browns by a final tally of 34-13. And as I noted a little while ago, there are a lot of reasons for this as part of our chat stats portion of today's show, but the Browns are the only team in the league not to have scored more than 18 points in a single game this year. Deshaun Watson has been under duress. The offensive line is bad. They obviously miss Nick Chubb. And because of that, they're doing the defense no favors. And it doesn't help that Myles Garrett has been hurt all year, which has also impacted the Browns defense, which last year was one of the top units in the entire NFL. The Eagles so far, 2-2, looking to get above 500 here. 34-29 win over the Green Bay Packers in Brazil in Week 1. Lost to the Falcons, heartbreaking fashion, 22-21 in the second week of the season in their home opener. Then they go on the road. They beat the New Orleans Saints. A heroic comeback, 15-12, thanks to Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert. And then the Eagles, banged up, go on the road to Tampa Bay, and Todd Bowles continues to have the number of Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. The Eagles lose that game 33-16. When the schedule came out for the Eagles, we hated the early bye. But I'm telling you right now, that Week 5 bye came at a really good time for the Eagles, and this is a great opportunity for them to get to 3-2, to really set the tone for the rest of the season. They have a pretty easy schedule of opponents coming up. They don't have to travel much for the rest of the year, and this can be the launching pad for Philadelphia here in 2024. I firmly believe that, and it's going to help that the Eagles have some stars back on the lineup and back in the lineup. Lane Johnson, perennial all-pro right tackle. he is going to play in this game. A.J. Brown, an all-pro wide receiver, expected to play as well. And Devontae Smith, once he clears concussion protocol, expected to play too, alongside A.J. Brown. And all of these players, full participants in practice this week. And the impact of A.J. Brown in the pass game, and just overall with this offense, it is felt. Has only played in one game this year. And in that game, I thought Philadelphia, once they found a groove and overcame those early turnovers, looked very dominant, looked very explosive, well-rounded, and they had a diverse offense. They dropped 34 points against a really good Packers team, one of the top teams in the NFC. But in the 3 games since, when A.J. Brown has not been in the lineup, Philadelphia's offense has fallen off a cliff, and Jalen Hurts hasn't looked as good in the passing game. He hasn't looked as confident, and the Eagles haven't been as explosive. They dropped 21, 15, and 16 points in the 3 games without A.J. Brown, and in the last 4 games without the services of A.J. Brown. If you count the wild card game against the Buccaneers last year, Philadelphia in that matchup only scored 9 points. The Eagles in that Week 1 game with A.J. playing also racked up 410 yards of offense. He had 5 catches for 119 yards, including that 67-yard touchdown. So you really can't overstate and emphasize more how much A.J. Brown helps Jalen Hurts and this passing attack. And then Lane Johnson obviously has his fingerprints on the pass game and on the running game. And since the Eagles drafted him out of Oklahoma way back in 2013, they are 91, 54, and 1 with him. That is a winning percentage of nearly 63% without Lane Johnson. 14 and 23, their winning percentage goes all the way down to less than 38%. And this year, he's playing really good ball. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 87.3. So he continues to be dominant in all phases. Pass blocking grade of 87.9. A run blocking grade of 86. 0 sacks allowed, 0 hits allowed, 0 pressures allowed on 166 total snaps, 92 pass blocking snaps. I have seen some people in the comment section asking, well, Chase, how does he not have a sack given up when he got beat in that Saints game? Well, there was a miscommunication there on that play, and I thought that there should have been a penalty there. Pro Football Focus, these are the PFF numbers, just did not credit him with giving up that sack, and obviously Lane Johnson will take that. The Eagles getting back Devontae Smith. He's one of the top number 2 wide receivers in the NFL. On a lot of other teams, Devontae Smith would be a bona fide number 1. The Eagles like to utilize him inside, outside, as a motion man, and he is a key cog for this Eagles offense as well. And let's round out this talking point with talking about Jalen Hurts. We know who Jalen Hurts is as a quarterback, and I know that he was the MVP runner-up in 2022. He didn't turn the football over. He was explosive in the pass game and in the run game. His deep ball accuracy was there, and most importantly, he kept the ball out of harm's way. But since 2022, there's been a long sample size of Jalen Hurts being reckless with the football, him turning the football over at an alarming rate. And I think we know the truth about Jalen Hurts. He is a good quarterback, but right now he is not playing like an elite quarterback. And you think about Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, some of the great quarterbacks over time, they have elevated their teammates and they have maximized the players around them. They always haven't needed to have a loaded supporting cast. They've been able to make do with subpar parts. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, I think needs weapons to be successful. And when he isn't surrounded by an elite supporting cast, that's when he really struggles, and we saw that against Tampa Bay. Can he turn that around? For sure. Can he clean his game up, and can he get back to playing elite football? No doubt about it. But in 2023 and in 2024, Jalen Hurts has been an average to good quarterback in this league, and he has to do a better job of protecting the football. And getting back A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson will help him tremendously, and it'll help Kellen Moore feel a lot more comfortable as the Eagles' offensive play caller. A lot more to get to here on the show, but if you think the Eagles will crush the Browns, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. My score prediction is coming up a little bit later. Our sponsor for today's Eagles Now, wouldn't be possible without our friends at Game Time. I love going to sporting events, but I talk about sports for a living. So I have vast interests. That includes comedy, music, sometimes going to a theater show. And on the Game Time app, they will give you options to go to games, but also concerts, comedy shows, and theater events. And with the Game Time app, they specialize in last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. So the more that you wait to buy your tickets up until the start of the event, the more that prices drop. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can access tickets from your phone, and thanks to Game Time Picks, curation makes it easier to find tickets to get in the door at a cheap price with the best seats for all of those events. If you want to go to Eagles-Browns on Sunday, plenty of tickets available. If you want to be a part of what is going to be a tremendous atmosphere, and it is another rare 1 p.m. Eastern game for the Eagles. We've already seen a couple of these so far and a couple of more to go. So Eagles games, concerts, more. I wish I could say the Philadelphia Phillies were still in action, but they choked in the NLDS against the New York Mets. Download the app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. Now, in this game, for this Eagles defense, this has to be a get-right game for Vic Fangio's unit. Why is that? This Browns offense is historically bad. Deshaun Watson has lost his confidence. He's lost some of his throwing and athletic ability. And this Browns team is playing awful offensive football right now. And I wasn't lying when I said it's to historic proportions. Austin Gale, with this tweet this week, the bottom 10 offenses in EPA per drive since at least 2000, ladies and gentlemen. The Cleveland Browns rank 790th this year. And they are a part of a list that has featured some really lowly offenses throughout the course of NFL history. And I don't see how they're going to turn it around. Their offensive line is porous. Deshaun Watson has lost his confidence. He's not the same player that he was while with the Houston Texans. Kevin Stefanski hasn't done a good job of catering to his strengths. Deshaun Watson is not a scheme fit, and all of that has compounded. All of that has come to a point where the Browns are the only team in the NFL who have not scored more than 18 points in a game this season. The Browns have a 34.1% success rate this year. That is dead last among 32 teams in the National Football League. And it's become clear over time with Watson's couple of years in Cleveland that he is not a scheme fit for what Kevin Stefanski wants to do. And Kevin Stefanski is a pretty good coach in this league. He's been the coach of the year. We've seen his offenses be productive, but I think it's an indictment on Watson that Joe Flacco had so much more success than Watson's ever been able to have in Cleveland. And the trade for him, the contract giving him fully guaranteed money, it's going to go down as one of the worst maneuvers in the history of the NFL. Stefanski likes to run an outside zone, under center-based offense. In 2020, Baker Mayfield, when he had a really good year, the Browns made it to the playoffs and they won a playoff game for the first time since the early 1990s when Bill Belichick was their head coach way back in the day, and Nick Saban was on that staff. Baker Mayfield was 29th in shotgun rate at 42%. In 2024, Deshaun Watson has been in the shotgun 82% of the time. That is 6th in the NFL. So Watson has never really been a drop back, under center, timing-based quarterback. And that's what Kevin Stefanski prefers to do. And now he can't really figure out what he wants to do from a play design, scheme, and play calling standpoint with Watson as the quarterback. Bottom 5 quarterbacks in success rate on throws of 2.5+ seconds after the snap. Deshaun Watson ranking 29th, and he's below Aaron Rodgers, Will Levis, Bo Nix, and Jacoby Brissett. Of course, it hasn't helped Watson that this Browns offensive line has arguably been the worst in the NFL. They have dealt with a lot of injuries, but Watson is getting pressured and sacked a lot. In fact, 5.2 sacks per game is dead last in the NFL. And when I watch Deshaun Watson, He's not playing decisively. He's not making quick decisions. And athletically, he's not running the same. And I think that he's lost his fastball a little bit. He suffered that shoulder injury last year, and the velocity isn't there. The deep ball isn't there. His accuracy has waned. And it's been wild to see this decline that has happened so precipitously. In 2020, while with the Houston Texans, I know that Houston that year went 4-12, but Watson's numbers were great, and he was a top 5, top 10 quarterback. He completed more than 70% of his passes. He threw for more than 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, yards per attempt at 8.9, right? But in 2024, look at how much the numbers have gone down. Completion percentage down by 10%, and his yards per attempt, 4.8. That final year in Houston, he led the NFL in yards per attempt. And you look further at these numbers here, this is why the Browns made that trade. Now, of course, it was risky for them to make that trade given all of the weird things that were happening off the field for Deshaun Watson. I certainly wouldn't have made that move. I really like the player from what I saw in 2020, but he gets suspended in 2021 and he's never recovered. And I think there's something to be said for athletes who lose their competitive edge, who lose their fire, who lose their cockiness, who lose their swagger. We saw this with Tiger Woods after his family incident was never the same because he lost that edge, right? That made him really special, that made him a cold-blooded killer. And for Watson, weird personality traits, maybe that's impacted his confidence a little bit because he's not playing like a confident quarterback. So in this game against the Browns, Philadelphia should be able to, against this bad offensive line, get pressure on Watson. And if you do that, he'll put the ball in harm's way, he'll question what he sees, he'll hold on to the ball too long, and the Eagles should be able to dominate the Browns' offensive line, which is one of the worst in the NFL, and get pressure on Watson. They should also be able to generate turnovers. The Browns haven't been able to manufacture big plays. So Philadelphia, if they just let the top be taken off of the defense, if they have secondary breakdowns, if they can't generate pressure on the quarterback, this could go down as just a historically bad loss for Nick Sirianni, and I think that his job could be in jeopardy. What the Browns are going to try to do, because they can't pass protect, because they can't throw it, they're going to try to run the football. They're going to try to run the football a lot. And the Eagles at moments this year have struggled to stop the run. So they're going to have to stop the run. They're going to have to generate a pass rush. They're going to have Deshaun Watson under siege. They're going to have to tackle a little bit better. As for how the Browns stack up, they are 30th in points per game at 15.8. 32nd in yards per game. 32nd in yards per play. 32nd in third down conversion rate. They haven't had a lot of trips to the red zone, so these numbers are skewed. But when they get in the red area, they have capitalized with their red zone rate, number 2 in the NFL. Their defense, again, they're not playing complimentary football. So I think the Browns' defense is a little bit better than what these numbers indicate, but the Browns' offense hasn't helped them out. They're 22nd in points per game, but they are 12th in yards per game, 14th in yards per play, 12th on third down percentage, and 18th in the red zone. And, of course, Jim Schwartz, the former Eagles defensive coordinator, is their DC now. How the Eagles stack up compared to the Browns. There's been some good and some bad on the offensive side of the football. And I do think that when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson back, it's just going to help this Eagles offense be the team that we know that they're capable of being. But right now, they're 18th in points per game, but they're 8th in yards per game, 15th in yards per play, 13th on third downs, 21st in the red zone. Those numbers have to get better. And with some firepower coming back, I think they will. Defensively, though, 21st in points per game, 27th in yards per game, 30th in yards per play, 16th on third downs, not bad, and 8th in the red zone. So on the money downs and in money situations, Vic Fangio's defense has been pretty solid. As for my keys to the game, the Philadelphia Eagles have to start fast. They are the only team in the NFL that hasn't scored any points in the first quarter this year. And because they're coming off the bye week, because pressure's on Nick Sirianni, because they have been a sloppy football team committing penalties that are avoidable the last year and change going into this year from 2023 to 2024, You can't come out sloppy. And if you do, the Boo Birds are going to be out and the pressure's going to be on. With the weapons coming back for the Eagles, they simply have to take advantage. Can Jalen Hurts finally play a clean game? 54 turnovers in his last 60 games. Play a clean game here for once, Jalen Hurts. And if you do that, and if the Eagles win the turnover battle, they can win this football game handily. If they lose the turnover battle once again, if he is sloppy, you give a dead team life. Since week 1, we have not seen as much pre-snap motion. Kellen Moore ran pre-snap motion about 65% of the time in week 1. Since then, the Eagles, for some reason, have gotten away from that. It's inexcusable in today's modern offensive era. More so, Philadelphia has to stop the run. It's the only way that Cleveland has a shot to upset Philadelphia's 9.5-point underdogs. Pressure Deshaun Watson, play bully ball against a bad offensive line. Can Bryce Huff finally do something? Can Jordan Davis put forward a good performance? Can Jalen Carter do what he did against the New Orleans Saints, what he is capable of doing? Can Josh Sweat pop off? I love what I've seen from the elder statesman in Brandon Graham. Tackle, tackle, tackle. The Eagles were so sloppy in doing that against the Buccaneers, and Tampa Bay picked up, after those missed tackles, more than 100 yards. And that's part of the reason why that game got so out of hand early, and then it ended up being a blowout. And another thing to watch, a big change made by Philadelphia, Cooper DeJean over Avonte Maddox. He's expected to get the start there. How does he fare, and is he up to speed with Vic Fangio's defense? Who you got in this game? CLE for Cleveland, PHI for the Eagles. You always have a voice on this show. I think the Eagles come out guns a-blazing. I am hopeful this will serve as the launching pad for the rest of the year for Philadelphia. They make a statement. They win this game 31-17. They get their confidence going. They get some momentum working. The bye week gave them opportunities to get healthy, to figure out things schematically, offensively, and defensively, and the Birds win by 14. We'll catch you Sunday live here on Eagles Now. Don't miss it. We'll see you then.